Hey, Steve Mignani here doing the junkyard crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts with a more recent car. Now, usually I focus on older cars, classic American stuff, but this is worthy of note. This is not a Taurus. Anybody remember the Ford 500? Well, only made for 3 model years, 2005, 2006, and 2007. And Ford basically thought they were going retro by reintroducing the 500 terminology from the Galaxie 500 to Fairlane 500. And the idea was to attract older buyers, folks down in Florida who would want a full-sized 4-door family car. In fact, this was based on Volvo's S80 platform. Ford called this the D3 platform. But the thing with this was, it has a very tall greenhouse. It's 62 inches tall, 4 inches taller than the Taurus that was sold right next to it. Now, this was meant to replace the Taurus, but again, these things only lasted 3 model years. And then Ford says, that 500 thing ain't working. Let's go back to Taurus. So the Ford 500, similar to a Taurus, in fact, almost the same. But with that said, only called 500 for 3 model years, 2005, 6, and 7. This is a 2007 final year for the 500, but this is special because we look at the front wheel. Now, when you see a threaded stub and a nut, yes, that's a driven wheel, a driven axle. And all of these, of course, were front-wheel drive. In fact, the Ford 500 was Ford's first all-new full-size platform since 1979. And again, it was based on the Volvo S80. You might say, Ford and Volvo, what's up? Remember that Ford owned Volvo in 1999, 1 year selling it to Geely, the Chinese car maker, in 2010. But while Ford owned Volvo, they scavenged bits of that S80 to make this D4 platform for the Ford 500. Now, getting back to this car, front-wheel drive cars have dead rear axles, unless you see this. That is another driven axle. Yes, you could get all-wheel drive on your 500. Very uncommon. There are about 250,000 of these cars built, of which I would say maybe 15% had all-wheel drive. Now, the point of all-wheel drive is we're in Massachusetts where it snows and it's, it gets ugly in the wintertime. All-wheel drive cars were really big in the Northeast, but not so much on the west and mid of the country where the snow wasn't an issue. So these are pretty rare. Now, we come around to the back of this thing, and here's this tall greenhouse. Again, it's a full-size car, and the 500, we're getting into the Galaxie 500 full-size theme with the name, and these have upright seating. 6 people sit inside of these things, no problem. It's a full-size car, but here we see it, all-wheel drive, and the term 500. And I remember back in LA, I used to see pre-production prototypes driving around in LA, mule cars with 500. I thought they were rear-wheel drive because I saw that nut and spindle. They were all-wheel drive cars is what they were. But again, this is something that's maybe 1 in 15 of all 500s were all-wheel drive. Pretty rare to see it. And a lot of folks don't even know that Ford made the 500. This did become the Taurus once again in 2008, but same basic car. But again, 3 model years, 2004, 5, 6, and 7. For the 500. Let's take a peek inside, Shane. We'll look around. Now, these were never available with manual transmissions. They were always an automatic of one type or another. That right there is the Haldex CVT, continuously variable transmission, only seen on all-wheel drive cars. Now, the standard front-wheel drive cars would have had a 6-speed automatic, but the CVT keeps the engine at a fixed RPM, and basically for fuel economy, and the transmission grabs various ratios, infinite number of ratios to keep the engine happy and the car moving. But it's pretty beautiful inside, really. I mean, it's sporty, and again, room for 5 in this one, full-size, upright seating. That was the whole point of this. Now, here's the deal. The all-wheel drive system on this was made by Haldex, who also does stuff for Formula One. They're basically an engineering job shop, if you will, but the equipment weighs 171 pounds. So the all-wheel drive curb weight was 3,814 pounds. Again, 171 pounds more than a regular front drive Ford 500. I dig a 120-mile speedometer, 7,000 RPM tachometer. And the beauty is, there is no red line on that tachometer. It just says 7 grand. It's funny, when you see like certain cars that have like a 5,000 RPM red line, but the tach goes to 9 grand, that's marketing. But when you don't see a red line, that's function. This can go to 7,000 RPM. And again, the 120-mile-an-hour speedometer is a wonderful, realistic item. The days of the 85-mile-an-hour speedometer junk were over by this point. Now, a lot of little neat details here. This top of the dash is a little handy storage spot right there for CDs or whatever. In fact, here's a piece of an old CD that's busted up. There you go, right there. And again, the factory CD player, remember those? Put the CD right in there, but AM, FM, CD, air conditioning, standard equipment on these things. These were pretty luxurious. The center console, put your arm on this thing, it's leather, it's stitched, open it up, and some breath mints, kind of nice. Some, ooh, nice, Carefree, or, oh, Winter Fresh, there you go, nice gum, good stuff. But again, this is, you know, this is Ford's full-sized car for the mid-2000s, or at least the 2005, 6, and 7 model years. And again, became the Taurus in 2008. Now, before we open the hood and look at that 7,000 RPM capable engine, the hood itself is worthy of note. Now, we know that Ford has gone to aluminum construction on their trucks, but if you look here along the leading edge, look at this white crusty corrosion. That's not steel. Steel turns orange when it rusts. That is an aluminum hood. The magnet does not want to stick. So again, Ford was using aluminum hoods on the 500s. The rest of the body is steel. Magnet wants to stick, you know, but again, this aluminum hood architecture kind of in its infancy in the early 2000s, like 4, 5, 6 area. So under the hood, what do we have? Let's take a peek. And again, this is a 7,000 RPM capable engine, no red line on that, kind of cool. There is fuel shut off, by the way, but there it is right there. This is the 3-liter Duratec V6, 203 horsepower, the only engine available. There's no 500 SHO, but the same basic engine was also used in Tauruses, or Tauri, whatever you want to call it. But again, we can see coil on plug architecture right here. It's a V6, the other side's in there, ram-tuned intake manifold. These runners right here take advantage of naturally occurring frequencies to fill the cylinders a little higher than atmospheric, free supercharging. Kind of cool here. This little engine strut here keeps the engine from rocking at power. A little sort of thing that helps the engine mounts live longer. And something kind of whacked out that Shane Richardson, the cameraman, pointed out and brought to my attention. This is the water pump. See the hoses going in and out. It's driven off the exhaust cam on the leading cylinder bank. Kind of a, you know, make one part do as many jobs as possible. But again, this is 3 liters, 203 horsepower, and yes, the fuel shutoff comes on at around 6,700 RPM, but you can ring these things out to damn near 7,000 RPM. And it's a Ford full-size passenger car. So we've come a long way since the original Galaxie 500, which had a 352 or a 390, which was a pretty pedestrian thing. But what Ford realized was that not enough people remembered the dynasty of the Ford Galaxie 500, Fairlane 500 nomenclature. So for 2008, they realized that these things kind of backfired and they went back to Ford Taurus nomenclature for these things. Now, production on these things, again, was about 240,000, about 250,000 cars in the 05, 06, 07 model years, plus some 2004s that were built. But again, maybe 15% were all-wheel drives like this one. And while we're at it, real quick, over my shoulder, that is a Taurus SHO right over there. And that is the car right there that the 500 replaced. Now, if you like that car, by the way, we do have a video here on the Steve Maggs YouTube channel. I couldn't get the hood open on that one, but that one has the high-performance V6 Yamaha engine, pretty cool stuff. But again, the Taurus SHO was a big deal then, 7,000 RPMs. Well, by 2005, 6, 7, 7,000 RPM V6s were normal, which just shows performance trickles on down from the halo models into the bread and butter cars. So that's the story of the 2007 Ford 500, Ford's failed attempt to play on its past. You know, they wised up. And again, Volvo, the bones of this puppy are also seen under Volvo S80 platform vehicles. They're shared. Interesting stuff. And again, Ford owned Volvo for 1 year, 1999, before selling it to Geely, the Chinese car maker, in 2010. So some similar bones on these things. So it's a global marketplace right here at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel. There's lots more to come.